And our opening words is by Adette Fulbright Fulson. Prayer for the morning. Did you rise this morning broken and hungover with weariness and pain and rage tattered from waving too long in a brutal wind? Get up, child. Pull your bones upright. Gather your skin and muscle into a patch of sun. Draw deep breaths into your lungs. You will need it. For another day calls to you. I know you ache. I know you wish your work was done, and you and everyone you have ever loved were on a distant shore, safe and unafraid. But remember this, tired as you are not alone. Here and here and here also, there are others weeping and rising and gathering their courage. You belong to them and they to you. And together we will break through and bend the arc of justice all the way down into our lives. So I have a folk tale that is very old. I found this in a collection of folk tales from the Delmarva Peninsula, which is the region of Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. It was published in the 1870s. And it starts actually on one of the very first warm days of the year. That day, that first day when you can actually open your windows and let that warm, muddy smelling spring air fill your house. And a couple, a husband and a wife, were so excited to see the spring come. They had become very weary of eating all of the old vegetables in their root cellar. And the husband decided he might try his luck at getting some fresh meat for their dinner. So he took his rifle and he went out for a walk. And as he was walking, he heard a huge sound overhead. It was a flock of geese flying north for the summer. La-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. Ah, his mouth began to water as he thought of steaming goose meat on his plate that night. He lifted his rifle, he took careful aim, and bang! One of the geese fell from the sky, and as she fell, she kept singing. La-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. Well, he found the goose, he tucked her under his arm, and he started home. But the whole while, the goose kept singing to him. La-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. Well, his wife met him at the door. She was thrilled that he got a goose. She loved a wonderful roast goose herself. And so she took it from him and began to prepare it. And as she plucked the feathers, a strange thing happened. Instead of floating to the ground, each of the feathers would rose up and floated out the open window. And the whole time she was plucking the bird, it kept singing. La-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. Well, she put the goose in a big roasting pan along with some of their old winter vegetables and into the hot oven. And she began to clean up the kitchen. She could hear these muffled sounds coming from the oven. Well, when the goose was cooked, she called her husband to the table. And he sat down. He looked at this glorious roast goose. And just as he was about to plunge a knife and a fork into it, a huge commotion erupted from outside the house, and an entire flock of geese flew in the open window and circled around the couple singing. Oh, wait, we're not allowed to sing. You have to hum it with me, sorry. Whoop. Oh, I haven't told this story since the before times. All right. Hum it with me. La-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. And each one of those own geese plucked out one of their own feathers, and they placed it in the bird on the table. When the bird on the table was covered with feathers, they lifted her up, and as soon as she was in the air, she became alive again, and she flew with them as they circled around the kitchen table one more time and went out the open window singing, la-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. And the husband and the wife looked at the empty platter, which had once held a glorious cooked goose, and now just had a couple of old parsnips and a potato. And they looked at the open window, and they looked down at the platter, and they looked at each other. And that night, for dinner, they had to eat their vegetables. La-le-loo, quilla come, la-le-loo. I am very pleased to introduce Kyra Taylor, our speaker this morning. She is an amazing person, and I am very pleased to also actually meet her for the first time face-to-face this morning. She is a Newcastle native, and she is a proud graduate of Edinburgh University, where she received her BA in history and a minor in women's studies and art history. Kyra is her day job, which is no small feat in and of itself. She is a counselor with the County of Erie. And she is not one for the spotlight. She really loves to be the behind-the-scenes mover and shaker. She is a proud member of the Sigma Gamma Rho Society, sorority, and it is a community service-driven organization. And she has been a community servant since middle school. At the age of 17, she was a production assistant for a Telly Award-winning film called Tangy Song. The film discussed the life of a Black woman who was diagnosed with HIV and the impact of HIV on the community. She has successfully planned ongoing events, secured volunteers, and implemented fundraisers for the R. Benjamin Wiley Partnership at Edinburgh University and the Theta Omega Sigma chapter of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. And in 2013, Kyra organized and partnered with Rob's Toys and the Erie City Mission for the second consecutive year for a winter clothing drive, which impacted over 800 families. In 2014, she partnered with the Urban Erie Community Development Corporation for the winter clothing drive, where over 100 new Americans were provided adequate winter clothing. In March 2015, she received a proclamation from Mayor Joseph Sinnott. For a youth symposium, she organized and partnered with Best Buy Geek Squad, the Urban Erie Development Corporation, retired state police, and Erie School District educators. Through her civic engagement, she really wants youth to see their educational possibilities and to be inspired to be community servants as well. She was also the campaign finance advisor for Devona Paisley and Jasmine Flores' run for city council in 2019. So lastly, she is the founding member and executive director of Erie's Black Wall Street, a 501c3 nonprofit, and I'm going to let her tell you all about it. Thank you, Kyra.
Good morning, everyone. This is my first time being in person in like 2 years, so just bear with me a little bit. This is a little different, okay? Excuse me. So, Erie's Black Wall Street, our tagline is dedicated to improving the lives of individuals, families, and businesses. Next slide, please. So our mission is to serve as a vehicle for change and empowerment of Erie's Black community through cultivating meaningful relationships, education of members, who we like to call family, and the creation of social networks and the promotion of Black entrepreneurship. Our vision is to create a culture of Black excellence and wealth in the Erie community that just serves as an inspiration for generations to come. So, a little bit of background. Like she mentioned, my background is in history, so I like to give a little bit of history, and I like to highlight history because if you know where you came from, you can know how to make better choices moving forward. So, given the historical inequities that people of color have faced in the United States, the most important feature of the movement towards socialization and partnerships with willing people and organizations that will make institutional change. The inequities that Black people in the United States have faced are the results of centuries worth of barriers created by institutions for the express purpose of excluding groups of people. The racialization of entire groups of people has had deleterious effects on all people, and the outward signs of damage are closely felt by members of the Black community. The pain and lasting damage to communities, to many communities, to which this has happened in depth and widespread, but are not to be compared to one another because each one has their own struggles. The role of all equity-minded members of the Erie region is to commit to the long-lasting work that it will take to begin to bring about equity. It is from this foundation that Erie's Black Wall Street begins its work. We have found that many of the Black community members, including small business owners, have very little information about financial infrastructure, about including personal and business budgeting, debt planning, and banking. To many of the business owners in the community, it may seem like this information is easily obtainable. However, it is largely populated by people who are white, who are male, and who are moneyed. Each of these characteristics has been the foundation upon which exclusionary business practices have been constructed. Their access is a given. The access of minoritized people is not. It is this cultural construct and the ones connected to it that create the barriers that we seek to tear down. Next slide, please. So, what are the problems that we have found in Erie County through our own research? The first one, home ownership. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the percentage rate of owner-occupied homes among Black people in Erie County is only 5.7%, in comparison to 89.6% of Erie's white population. Finances. 47% of the Black population lives at or below the national poverty line. This is twice the already alarming national poverty rate for Black Americans of 23.9%, and more than 4 times the white poverty rate in Erie of 11.9%. Education. Lack of financial literacy in the Black community, as well as training and development in basic life skills. Trust. Given the structural nature of racism in the United States as a building block of the United States, there's a historical lack of trust of the institutional system, such as local government, by the Black community. In Erie, City Council declared racism as a public health crisis. And lastly, resources. The Black population is often the last to receive access and information about available resources available to assist them in bettering their lives and their businesses. So I like to tell my own personal story, and your theme for this month was abundance and scarcity. And so I like to think of my life as from abundance to scarcity to abundance. So growing up, I was a child of a middle-class Black family. I wanted for nothing. I was spoiled, but I wasn't rotten. My dad told me, just to give you an example of that, my dad told me that when I turned 16 or 15, we were talking about working and stuff like that. And my dad told me, you don't have to get a job. You don't have any bills. You don't need to worry about anything. So, of course, what did I do? I got a job. And, I got to pocket all that money, and I didn't have any responsibilities. So I went to college. I went to Edinburgh, and my parents I'm an early person, and so my parents got me there super early. I got set up in my dorm. It's still morning time. They leave me. I'm like, yes, I'm happy. I'm excited. And so I lay on my bed, and then it's like 12:30, 1 o'clock, and it's getting warm in here. Oh, it's getting really hot. Where's the air conditioning? Where's the AC? So I'm looking around my college dorm for the thermostat because I am hot. I want to be cool. And so I go to my RA and I'm like, hey, where's the thermostat at for the air conditioning? Because it's kind of hot in my dorm room. And he laughs hysterically. He's like, oh, child. Sweetie, you need to go to Walmart, get you like 2 or 3 fans, and you'll be okay. And I was like, there's no air conditioning? What? I did not know that every place did not have air conditioning. So that was my abundance. I wanted for nothing. I had things that I did not know that other people didn't have. I thought they were basic, So graduation comes. Then I was out in the real world, and not being fully aware that although I was always a pretty responsible person, that I came from this wonderful background, that my parents gave me everything that I asked for, I wasn't fully equipped to handle life, real life, like some of my white friends. I lived majority of my adult life living paycheck to paycheck. I have been blessed with money that I had no clue of what to do with it, and now I have nothing to show for it. I have always been a renter. I did not see the value in home ownership for quite a long time. I am 33 now, and I'm still currently renting, but in the process of getting ready to buy a house with my husband. I have also been homeless, and I have not been privy to all of the programs and resources out there that were available to assist me. So I think that I can speak for Devonna, who is my right-hand woman, and Angelica, her wife. They are both of my friends from college. They're also my co-founders of Erie's Black Wall Street. I think that I can speak for them to say that Erie's Black Wall Street was created out of a desperate need because we've all experienced most of those things that I mentioned that I've gone through. So now that Devonna, Angelica, and myself have an abundance of not just knowledge, but resources, we feel it's our responsibility to educate, to encourage, and to inspire others to share their knowledge and resources so that other Black people, and just people in general, do not have to go through what we and a vast majority of Black people went through. Therefore, Erie's Black Wall Street was created. So, our goals for Erie's Black Wall Street and what we want our outcome to be. Next slide, please. So we plan to create and recreate a foundation of wealth in the Black community that is rooted in 2 facts of U.S. economic life that ensures positive outcomes for families in both present and future generational statuses: financial literacy and property ownership. Erie's Black Wall Street is committed to identifying, recognizing, and supporting the work of Black business owners in Erie and its surrounding communities by promoting the work of its members. Erie's Black Wall Street will provide useful information to our members, who we like to call our family, and members of the community at large. We have developed programming that is specifically designed to address the lack of socialized, institutionalized knowledge about money and finances so that Black families from all different socioeconomic backgrounds have the opportunity to learn. We will also provide workshops and multimedia training and informational sessions that highlight the knowledge necessary for Black entrepreneurs to start and maintain their businesses, as well as individuals to flourish in life. We have constructed programming that is designed to reduce the disparities of Erie's Black community, such as credit education, home ownership, budgeting workshops, and many more aimed at people who have little to no generational knowledge about wealth building or access to such resources. In addition, we are committed to community partnerships to help disseminate information and to raise funds in the community. In order to achieve the mission of parity for the Black community, it is imperative that our organization is able to provide transformative work in this crucial time in our country's history. Next slide, please. So Project Renaissance was created to address specific needs voiced directly from Erie's Black population. The word Renaissance was chosen because it means renew or new beginning, which is what our vision for Erie's Black community is. So Project Renaissance is a 3-phase program that includes what we call our signature jubilees. So they're a local effort to educate local Black citizens about the cost and effects of debt on them and their families, and it's an effort to help eliminate that debt in some way, somehow. So we focus upon the role of income, wealth, and business ownerships and their effects on Black people, families, and communities. One of our primary areas of focus will be to provide useful information to our members and visitors that will help improve their work as business owners and just members of the community at large. So we have the following programs listed up there for you. What we're trying to do is very simple, and you would think that would be generalized knowledge that everybody would know, but it is not. So last week, just this past Thursday, we had our credit education workshop where we educate people on the history of credit, the effects of credit, how credit was used to deter Black people from being able to be homeowners and landowners as well. And in that workshop, we were able to give tips and tricks and resources to people to allow them to know this is how you can make credit work for you. This is how you can use credit to build generational wealth for your family to come. So we also do a giveaway at the end of that workshop where we give away free credit repair and counseling services to people. So this year we were blessed to be able to give away those services to 5 different people, and they are able to use those for 6 months. They get monitored along the way to make sure that they are not just given, here you go, here, we're gonna push you out now and you have to fly on your own, you know? So it's just to keep monitoring and making sure that they have the tools necessary to succeed. So we also do a budgeting workshop, and I was deeply affected by this because, like I mentioned earlier, I lived majority of my adult life living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't know that there were companies out there that actually pay you to save money. And so we educate people on the importance of saving, but how you can do it from living from paycheck to paycheck. Small differences that you can make, or changes that you can make a huge difference. We have our Pathway to Home Ownership workshop series that we do every Saturday in the month of January. This has focused on everything you need to know to buy a house, from why you need a realtor or the benefits of a realtor, the credit, the budgeting, how to maintain your home afterwards, the mortgage process, and everything in between. And if people attended all 4 sessions, at the end of that, they met certain criteria. If you wanted to buy a home in the city of Erie, we were selecting 2 individuals to give $5,000 towards the down payment or closing costs for buying a house. I'm proud to, it's like having a baby, you're proud to see your baby growing. And I was able to see that the 2 people that we selected were actually able to close on their homes in August of this year. So to see that happening, and to see that now this is something that they have pride in, that they can give that information to their family, it's like throwing a rock in a pond. You have one big splash, but then you have the ripple effect. So I'm proud to announce that we're doing that again this year. Last year, at the beginning of, doing it again next year. At the beginning of this year, we gave out $10,000 to 2 people, combined. This year, we have $25,000 to give away. And so most of the money that comes into Erie's Black Wall Street is directly impacting and going into the hands of others. So we also like to focus on our business owners and offer them just business training. So anything from, how can I get this idea that I have in my mind from the inception to the conception, and branding and everything in between. So next slide, please. So evidence of effectiveness. Like I said, I am a historian by nature, and so I like to make sure that what I am doing is effective, that it's not repeating, some of the same mistakes in history and whatnot. And so we've had, and these numbers are a little old, but we've had well over 275 participants in our workshops since we became a nonprofit as of July 22nd last year. So to me, to Devonna, and my entire board of directors, we know that what we are doing has been impactful and is desperately needed. Next slide. So this is just a letter of gratitude that we received from Darius Hubbard. He was one of the recipients of our $5,000 giveaway. And I'm just, like I said before, I'm just so happy to see that he has been able to, and he's very young, he's in his early 20s. He's been able to just have this burden lifted off of his shoulder to know, like, hey, I want to buy a house, but I only have this amount of money saved, and I don't know how long it's going to take me to make up this other $5,000 that I need. And for us to be able to help in that aspect was inspirational to myself. Next slide, please. So I love this quote by Helen Keller: "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." So these are just some of our community partners, and we've partnered with people from the Erie community, to Pittsburgh, to Philadelphia, all the way to California. So I just, we cannot do this without people sharing their resources. We can no longer hoard those things that have been readily available to us this entire time. Next slide, please. So this is my team. It's listed as team, but once again, I like to call it family. And so myself, Devonna Paisley, she's my COO, co-founder. Angelica Spraggins, she's also the co-founder, and she's a board member. We all three went to college together, and it's funny because I met Devonna through Dr. Matthews in one of Dr. Matthews' classes. So Dr. Matthews is like our resident researcher. And so without her, I wouldn't have all my numbers that I have and, historical data that I have. And then we have Brian Atterbury as well. He is our community voice. He is an Erie native, and he is just so involved. And we were like, when we were forming this nonprofit, we were like, who can we get? Because myself, Angelica, and Dr. Matthews are not from here, but Devonna is, but who else can we get that is just deeply ingrained in Erie community and that loves Erie community? And so that's how Brian came to be on our board. Next slide, please. So we understand that we have taken on a task that is no easy feat. This has been something that has been going on for centuries, right? So it's not something that can happen overnight. We understand that. However, with every fiber of our being, we are devoted to make Erie a better place in the future for Black people. And the one thing that I always love to let people know is that when your most marginalized communities in your city or your county begin to thrive, it will affect and make the entire community thrive in all different aspects. Next slide, please. So people always ask, well, how can I help? And helping looks like something different for each person. We are all at different stages in our lives, and you may be able to help in more aspects, in more ways than one. So first, one way is if you have social media, you can like and share and follow us on Facebook, on Instagram. We also have a website. You can support Black-owned businesses. There are, our holiday season is coming up. If you're buying Christmas gifts and gifts for Kwanzaa or any other holidays, let's maybe stay away from Target and Walmart and these big chains and actually go to our specialized shops. You can also provide resources and information. A lot of what I get in my email all the time is, Kyra, this is available. And hey, I have access to this, and hey, I can present a workshop on this. So if you have any of those resources and information that you want to pass along, we have a Facebook private group of over 1,500 Black citizens and everything in between here. So we can push that information out to those people and allow them to have access to that information. You can give financially. We are always accepting donations. Without donations, we could not do what it is that we do. So we're glad to accept donations, of course. You can also download the Eries Black Wall Street app. you guys are the first to know that we have an app. So it's going to be announced next week, but I just wanted to share that with you all, that you can download our app. It's available on both Android and iOS. And then we do have a store on our website where you can purchase many different things. We have everything from masks to hoodies to sweatpants, tumblers and mugs and jackets, and t-shirts. And the one t-shirt that I love is our one that it says ally across the chest, but the word ally is actually struck out in red. And underneath it, we have stamped the word accomplice, because an ally can stand beside us, of course, but if the stuff hits the fan, they can escape, and we still have to deal with whatever it is that we deal with. But an accomplice is someone who's gonna go down with us, who's gonna, have that swinging battle with us. And so we like to think of our partners as accomplices. And so, next slide. So I just wanna thank you for allowing me to come here today and to be able to share my story of abundance to scarcity to abundance, and hope that you all can share your abundance with us and for us to be able to share that with others. So I will definitely take questions a little later, and that's my contact information. And Devonna was going to be here with me today, but she's sick. So if you could just keep her in your prayers and positive thoughts and send her positive energy, I would greatly appreciate that. But thank you.